Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's Cathedral webinar. We're coming to you live on March 4th. Today, you're tuning in for How Money Works for Women, Take Control or Lose It. And your instructor today is Shantae Moore. My name is Brooke Warrington. I'm the Training and Development Specialist here at the Native Learning Center. We're also thrilled that you could join us for today's webinar. If you could please follow along while I read the disclaimer aloud. This webinar provides a summary of fundamental concepts, requirements, and/or procedures within the allotted 90 minutes. The material discussed does not illustrate all possible scenarios that could be applicable. We also have our copyright infringement law pictured here. The materials are protected by copyright, trademark, trade secret, and other intellectual property laws. Just to familiarize you with our new platform, if you would like to access any of the materials from this course, as well as our past webinars, you can find that there in the courses section. But I am going to be copying and pasting a link to today's presentation slides, as well as a resource item that Shantae has included with today's presentation, and I am putting that into the chat right now. So that is linked within. And if this is your first time, just know that anytime you're going to join us for a webinar, as long as you log in during the time that the live webinar is happening, you'll see a green banner at the top of your screen, just like you see, and you'll just click on that and it'll bring you right into the webinar to join. When you do first join, it's going to conduct a sound test. We do ask typically that you join with listen only, just so there's not people coming on with their mics on and creating audio feedback issues for our instructor. If you do join and you realize that your sound is not coming out of the device that you would prefer it to be coming out of, you can go ahead and click on that little telephone icon down at the bottom of your screen, and that brings up a list of your mic devices as well as your speaker devices. And so you can go in there and select the correct output that you would want your sound coming out of. There are different ways to interact during the webinar. If you do join with your mic on, no worries. You can just mute yourself down there with the microphone icon. I have listed a bunch of links in the shared notes. There's ones to our Cathedral Webinars archive, today's feedback survey, as well as the slides and the resource item. And the slides and resource item I did already put in the public chat for you. So if you have any questions, any comments, any tech support issues perhaps, you can send that into the public chat. You just click on the typing box, send in whatever you want, and you can either hit enter or click on the paper airplane icon, and that'll send it into the public chat and we can all see it. Let's go ahead and get that chat box going together. Before I hand it off to Shantae, if you guys could please introduce yourselves in the chat. You could let us know your name, where you're joining from, your work or your role in Indian country, and your tribal affiliation if you have one. And then just a quick final note, that red menu panel that's all the way to the left of your screen, just know that if you click on that, it will pull you out of the webinar and it'll take you to whatever you've clicked on. Know that it's really simple to just click back on the green banner and it'll bring you right back into the webinar. So if you do find that you accidentally clicked on that at some point, no worries, just click on that green banner and you will be pulled back into the webinar once again. All right, folks, it is with great pleasure that I introduce today's webinar instructor, Shantae Moore. And Shantae, I'm making you presenter and I'm going to hand it off to you now.
Okay, thank you so much, Brooke. I really appreciate that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, wherever you're from in the country. So appreciate again, Shantae Moore. I am the founder and director of Native American Financial Literacy Services. And I'm really happy to have this conversation. Like, I want to have a real conversation with the women about money. This is an interactive webinar, so feel free to type in information in the chat. I have a couple of rhetorical questions that I'll be sharing. If anyone wants to add those answers in, that'd be great as well. I'll try to keep an eye on some of those responses. But I always tell, women, especially when it comes to money, like, if you don't know it already, you're already the CFO. You're the chief financial officer in your family or in your, even in your own life. We handle so much with money and don't even realize that we're already making very important decisions. And my goal today is to have just a normal conversation about how important it is to be in control of money. Because sometimes it feels like money is like, it's controlling us. We're not in control of it. It's the other way around. and we can lose it. We can lose money because we're not making informed decisions. We're making emotional decisions around money. So let's just go ahead and get into the conversation. So first question I'd like to ask us is like, where did you learn about money? If we think about it, and again, these are questions you can answer in the chat if you would like to. We don't learn about it in schools. We know that for a fact. Only, I think it's like 26 states now require a personal finance class for a high school student to actually graduate, which means almost half the country doesn't even have that type of requirement. It's not taught in school. So many of us, we learn from our parents or the person who actually raised us. And if you're like me, I was born on the reservation in New Mexico, but I grew up in the Midwest in Chicago, and I learned some very odd things about money. Did you hear any of these things? These words, like when you were a kid, like money doesn't grow on trees, pinch your pennies, save for a rainy day, we can't afford it. I heard all of these. And when you're growing up hearing negative messages about money, it can lead to a scarcity mindset. We're always thinking like there's not enough. It's not enough. And then we take that negative mindset into adulthood and we pass it on to our children. And for women in particular, I think that's why it's really important for us to break that cycle. It's time for us to get rid of that scarcity mindset and thinking and open our minds and hearts to thinking like, okay, what can I really do? If I become financially educated, what can my financial future look like? So this is a really unique statistic. By 2030, women are expected to control 30 trillion of the financial assets in the U.S. And that represents 2/3 of the wealth in this country. And we've made a lot of progress in the workplace and academically. We earn majority of the college degrees. We make up nearly half of the workforce. We represent more than half of the management and professional careers. So we're advancing when it comes to those different areas. However, we know this statistic here a lot where unfortunately we still only earn 82 cents for every $1 that's earned by a man. And this was some census data as most recent of January in 2022. And for Native women, this is even lower. This is a lower statistic. And the primary reason for this is that it's not because, could there be some pay inequities? Probably it could be some, or inequality. But the primary reason for us earning less money is because we simply take time off from work or our careers. We take time off away to raise our children or to take care of our aging parents or even a sick partner. And these interruptions in our career can significantly impact our chances to get promoted, to earn higher income levels, and even for some women, even participating, investing in full retirement benefits that are offered at a workplace. I always say, I'm a divorced mom of 3. And when, if something happens to the kids at school, who's the first person they're calling? It's normally not the dad. They're calling me. They're calling the mom. And we're the ones who have to drop everything, leave work, go take care of the kids, take them to the doctor, whatever it is. We're the ones who are doing that. And if you think about us constantly doing that over and over for these different reasons, it's no surprise why we're not earning as much money as men. And so, those caregiving responsibilities are pretty significant. We are more likely to work minimum wage in lower income occupations than men. In fact, 2/3 of those low paying jobs are held by women. So if we do work, we're not working in careers where we're making a whole lot of money. A lot of us aren't. And because we have those caregiving responsibilities, and some women unfortunately have lack of self-confidence to even pursue those higher career aspirations. So then when we do get into a corporate world, even those of us who pursue like better corporate career opportunities, we find that there's a broken rung on the ladder. We represent 48% of entry-level workers, but only 26% of executives in the C-suite. And this was from an article from McKinsey and Company in 2022. And so, we're looking at how are we advancing our careers? Are we putting ourselves in positions to earn that extra income? And when we think about median earnings, men earn more than $61,000 a year. And if we're looking again at 82 cents for every dollar earned by a man, the median earnings for women is a little more than $51,000. That's a $10,000 difference. And just think of, again, I'll use myself example, a single mom, 3 kids. How significant would that $10,000 be for a family? That's just on the income difference alone. That's a big significance. That could be everything, for a single mom. So over a 40-year career, the gender pay gap is where we really see the bigger cost. That's where it costs us more than $400,000. That's $400,000 less, that we have to pay off debt. That's $400,000 less that we had to save for our retirement or other financial goals. And that's simply because over that 40-year time frame, we're not making as much money as our male counterparts. And I like how the characters here on the screen, it says, okay, we need to do something about that. And Dana, the other character, she says, yeah, that's why doing something starts with education. It starts with learning from webinars like this and learning, like, what can I do? What can I do that's a little different? So I'll go on with a couple more doom and gloom sides, and then we'll get to the brighter side of things. So when we retire, we receive 80% of what retired men receive in Social Security benefits. And how is that? If you're not aware how Social Security is calculated, it's based on your work history, how many years have you worked, and the Social Security Administration, they basically compute your 10 highest earning income years to determine what your monthly Social Security benefit will be. And so again, think of the career of a man. They're not the ones taking off from work. They just work. They steadily progress in their career over their whole entire life, so they can get to those higher income earning levels sooner and for longer than women. If we're staggered, sometimes we take off time completely out of the workforce. Again, we're working part-time, we're not working full-time. So we're not actually even going to qualify for higher Social Security benefits compared to men. And if you think about our populations, our seniors and our elders, a great majority of them are only living on Social Security. Like, that's their only source of any funds in retirement in their later life. And so as a woman, now she's receiving much, much less than, again, her male counterpart would have. So now that we kind of just talk about, again, all the doom and gloom. I mean, I don't like to call it doom and gloom. It's just statistics. It's facts. And these are things that I think it's important to make women understand. This is why it's important to have these webinars and have these conversations, because when we learn where we are, we can learn how can we change things for the future to be better, right? And so when we talk about taking control, we want to take control of our money. We got to consider some simple steps. The first step we need is just to start having conversations about money. I know it's taboo to talk about money to other people, right? It's something we're ashamed of. It's like, I don't want people to know my financial struggle, or I don't want folks to know that I'm not doing as well as I appear to be, maybe having that imposter syndrome, or maybe people think I have it all figured out and I really, really don't. We'll talk about any and everything with our closest friends and family, but money, again, it's just that taboo subject. What if we did just start talking about these things that are important to us? Like, what keeps you up at night? That's something that when I'm doing my consultations with folks, I always tell them, like, what's that one thing that you're like worried about? It's really heavy on your heart. Like, it's in your stomach. It just really, it basically keeps you up at night. What is that? Have conversations about that. Do you feel like you're never getting ahead? I mean, oh my God, how many people feel like that? They feel like they're struggling, they're working, and they're hustling, and they don't feel like, they're improving their financial situation. What about this one? This one is a big worry now. Are you worried about outliving your money? If we think about it, I know I'll talk about it a little later in the presentation. Wouldn't you all agree that we are living way longer lives than previous generations, especially with all the medical advances, all the prescription drugs that are out there? People used to retire and pass away within like 5 or 10 years and they were gone. People are now living 30, 40 years in retirement. In fact, when I'm teaching my classes on retirement, I tell folks like, look, when you retire, you should expect to be retired just as long as you were actually working in the workforce. So if you were working for 30 years, you should expect to be retired for 30 years. And that's a really long time. And that's a really big concern of if people have any savings, they're like, oh my God, how am I going to stretch this out over this time frame? Or the results of depending on the government with the Social Security benefit. And nothing is wrong with that. But that's even in trouble. I mean, Social Security benefits are not even guaranteed. We hear, if you look at your Social Security statement, it even says, it's a little asterisk at the bottom that says, this benefit is an estimate, based on current reserves in the Social Security Trust Fund. And I believe right now the estimate, if you look on, I haven't looked at a more recent one from 2025, but last year it said that money was, the Social Security benefits were, there was enough money to pay those benefits in full until 2034, just 10 years. And then they said, unless Congress makes any changes, those reserves will actually be depleted and there won't be enough money coming in. And then they would have to reduce benefits by 20 to 30%. That's a big difference. And I'm talking about it because it's significant. Like, imagine your Social Security check is $1,000 a month. And if that's all you have, I mean, I don't know a lot of people who are living lavishly off Social Security. They're barely making it with that. Imagine if their benefit decreased from $1,000 to $700 or $800. That's really scary. And here's another question: Who will take care of you? Who will take care of you if you get sick? Like, we take care of everyone else, right? I'm like, God forbid, pray to God I don't get sick, because I don't know who's going to get these children to school. I don't know who's going to be cooking dinner and take care of the household. Who will take care of us? And then here's a big question: Do you know how to create generational wealth? I work with a lot of folks and they tell me that I want to create generational wealth. And when women speak up about things that matter, then we can start making changes. But we just have to start having the conversation first. So a second quick tip is just to know your financial situation. This is kind of straightforward, but I find that a lot of people don't actually do this at all. We don't really take a holistic look at what is happening with our numbers. It may seem overwhelming even, but if you can do it, just step by step. First thing, just start with looking at your paycheck stubs. See exactly how much you're getting paid, what's being taken out for taxes and employee benefits. It's interesting. Again, I have these conversations and I'm like, how much do you make? What's your income? And they're like, I don't know. They just see the deposit in their bank account every 2 weeks. Next, review your bank account statements. Especially if you use a debit card, this will be a great way just so you can see, like, what are you spending your money on? I always tell folks it's so easy. If you think about how we bank and deal with money, it's all electronic, right? Like, everything is on our phone. I can tap and pay for my phone. You really don't even have to pull a credit card out no more. And so we don't necessarily have that psychological connection to money because it's electronic. Like, we don't even see it come. We don't even see it go. We just know it's like, boom, I tapped and I bought something else. I'll tell you real quickly, like, if you want to stop spending, because some people say, I spend too much, I don't know where my money is going, just buy everything in cash. You would be surprised the psychological changes you will have, because you're taking all those $20 bills out your pocket and you're using it to pay for something, and then you're getting change back, and now you only have $5 in singles, and you're like, wait a minute. Psychologically, you're going to be like, wait, I want these $20 bills. Try it out for 30 days. You'll be surprised how much less you spent. I mean, and the general rule of thumb too is if you don't have enough cash to buy it, you shouldn't be buying something. But anyway, sometimes we just need to see, like, where am I spending my money at? What is the biggest thing that I'm, putting money out for? I know for me, I eat out a lot. I was like, Shantae, you got to stop eating out. You need to cook more dinners. But of course, I'm like, I'm busy. I can't cook. But anyway, that's just my thing. And so anyway, just have that realistic look of what are you spending your money on? And then you should check your insurance coverage. Look at your auto insurance, home insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care insurance. Do we even have all these insurances? Insurance is a word to protect all the what ifs in life. We don't know when our final days will be here. We don't know if we'll ever get in a car accident, but you want to have that coverage in place just in case, just in what if. It's not a bill. I don't look at insurance coverage as an expense. I look at it as protection and investment for my family. When you're looking at your policies, what is actually covered? What is not covered? How much are you paying? Are there any gaps? Especially like if the workplace, if you have a job that offers you benefits, do you really know like how much life insurance they actually offer you? What type it is? What your long-term disability is, short-term disability? Like really just start looking at those things. And then next, review your retirement and investment account statements. Is your money invested? How are they invested? Like who helped you choose those investments? How did you even get these investments? Are those investments, are they in line with your risk tolerance? When I'm teaching my workshops on investing, I teach people like, don't invest in something just because your buddy next door is doing it, or your manager is doing it and you think they're super successful. They're probably not. Every person, especially when it comes to investing, this has to be suitable for you, for your risk tolerance, for what you're willing to stomach losing and your financial goals. And I highly tell folks, don't take investment guidance from no one but an actual professional, someone who look at your situation and who can understand who you are and help you understand rather who you are as an investor. And then finally, take a close look at your loans and credit card debts. How much money do you owe? What is the interest rate? What is the minimum payment? How long will it take to pay it off if you keep paying off the minimum balance? Again, I picked up I was out of town a whole week last week, and I just went to the mailbox. I'm like, oh my God, I got all this mail to go through. Open your mail, open your statements. You actually might find some checks in there. I remember having that happen. Somebody mailed me a check in the mail. But again, this is so important just to see where do we stand financially. We got to get our head out of the sands and look and just see, okay, let me just get an idea. Where am I? Because you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you're starting from. So the next step is to eliminate the unnecessary. What do I mean by unnecessary? Here are some unnecessary things in our lives. Do you have any video, music, or gaming streaming services, or subscriptions that you don't use or that overlap each other? It may seem small because, and think about like during COVID times, I think we all signed up for a bunch of, monthly subscriptions. Like, oh, it's just $2.99 a month here. It's just $4.99. And then the trial period ends and now it's like $25.99. First those things look small, but they really can add up. Even if you just eliminated $10 in charges each month, that's $120 that you save for the year. We also, again, when you're paying attention to your statements and your credit card debts and things and loans, we have no more late fees, no more overdraft charges. Let's have an awareness on our due dates on our bills, because obviously paying late, that's probably, the late payments will probably ruin your credit score, but they have a big significant impact. Those will really, really hurt your credit score more than anything else. If you can set up auto pay or schedule alarms on your phone or a calendar. I live and die by my calendar. Just put a note in there. Hey, the phone bill is due, whatever. Check your bank account regularly online or through a mobile app. Again, so you're not overdrafting, you're not paying those expensive overdraft charges. And then also work on eliminating unnecessary credit card debt. I have a whole workshop just on debt elimination. There are two ways to go about it. You can start with a credit card that has the highest interest rate, or you can start with a credit card that has the lowest balance. I personally recommend the second approach, paying off the credit card that has the smallest balance, because you really see the fruits of your labor faster. You need a win, because sometimes people, when they're overwhelmed with debt, they don't see any way out of it. It's like, oh my God, I'll never get out of this debt. So when you just pay off one credit card balance, and even if it's $100, $200 balance, you feel good about it. You're like, oh my God, I finally at least got rid of one credit card. And then, pay double or triple the minimum amount on your next credit card. And then you just work on one debt at a time. One thing I see a big mistake is people try to pay off, or they pay extra on every single debt that they have. No, just pay the minimum balance on all your cards except for the one that you're trying to pay down first. Put all your extra money to that one card. It'll go much faster. It'll go much, much faster if you do it that way. And then next thing, work on the next credit card with the next lowest balance, and then just go through one-on-one. But once you pay off a credit card, don't cancel that card. That's a big mistake because that will reduce your available credit, which will also hurt your credit score. So just put that credit card away. Don't use it. Just put it away, put it to the side. And then once a year, you should be getting a copy of your credit report and your credit score. It's the one thing that I tell folks, you want to be successful, you need to have good credit. You really do, because you qualify for the best interest rates. You're more favorable to get, better car notes and mortgages and things of that nature. So you should be checking your credit report. Check for errors. Believe me, there can be some significant errors on a credit report, or information can be outdated. Maybe there's old names that you don't use anymore, or old addresses, or there's actually some inaccuracies. Maybe there's something that you need to dispute. If there's anything that's outdated, contact the credit bureaus and make sure that information gets up to date. And then the last thing to consider eliminating is just any bad financial habits. Again, my bad financial habit is I eat out too much. I really need to cook more. I don't want all my money going to and plus I live in the Midwest. I live right outside of Chicago. I think we have the best food in the country. So I'm always eating out. And I live in an area where literally every fast food place is 2 minutes from me. That's a problem. But anyway, just think about what bad habit you can eliminate. What can you cut back on? I'm not the person that says, oh, stop getting your Starbucks. That's the $7 of coffee. I think you can have some things to enjoy, but you should also be taking care of all your other financial responsibilities first. And then have, I call it sunny day money. Have some fun with your sunny day money. But let's move on to the next tip, and then we'll get into some more specifics. So tip number 4 is we should set financial goals. It's unusual. I meet with a lot of folks. They don't really think about financial goals. I think we stopped dreaming. Remember when we were kids, we used to dream about like, I want this type of car and I want this type of job and this house. And, then adulthood comes and we realize like, oh God, these are not what I thought it would be. You stop dreaming. I think we should dream again. Have goals, short-term goals, medium term. We're really good at identifying short-term goals. I will say that. But we don't think about longer term, medium term goals like buying a house or a car or getting a bigger house or going on a dream vacation. Or sometimes we don't even really plan for long-term goals, thinking like about retirement or our long-term care needs. You'll need money when you get older. How will I have money for those things? And then the last tip here is once you set your goals, let's come up with a plan to achieve them. Unfortunately, the majority of women do not have a plan to reach their financial goals, including retirement. We plan everything else in life. We plan birthday parties and weddings and vacations and, potluck dinners. We plan a lot of things, but we don't plan for our own financial goals. We need to change that. And it's critical that we think long-term planning. We really do need to consider long-term planning, because many women end up in nursing homes and or with Alzheimer's. You think that it won't be it won't be you. And even if it's not you, then it's your mother, it's your sister, it's your aunt, it's your best friend. I think if, with the, over a dozen women that we have on this webinar, you probably know someone or maybe 2 or 3 people who are dealing with long-term care situations. And I'll talk about this a little bit more. But again, if it's not you, it'll be someone that you care about or that you actually care for. So be the woman in your life and for the women around you who is forward thinking, who is thinking about planning for the future. And then here's another tip. This one is big. We do need to have our goals in place, have a plan in place. We really need to start saving and investing more money. I'll tell you this, and I see this all the time. Women report, and this is according to Age Wave, Women in Financial Wellness Beyond the Bottom Line, from an article in 2022. Women report, really men and women, but women report that their number one financial regret is not saving and investing more money. I can't tell you how many women, especially like they're older, they tell me the number one thing: I wish I learned this stuff when I was younger, Shantae. I wish I would have worked with someone like you when I was in my 20s, when I just got started with my job. Don't wish, just do it. It doesn't even matter if you maybe missed the time. Just get started now. Don't make that mistake. And many women believe that it takes a lot of money to start saving and investing, and that's not true at all. You can actually start with just a small amount. If you save $1 a day, you'll have $30 in a month, and that's $365 in a year. If you save $10 a day, you'll have $300 by the end of the month, and that's $3,650 at the end of the year. So when we're really just taking the small steps, applying financial principles like compounding interest, it means you're getting the highest interest rate possible, and it's growing upon itself. We call that, your money working for you. And the time value of money just means you get started right now. You don't wait. Your savings will have the potential to grow over time if you just get started, to help you reach your goals. So, and getting invested in the stock market, we're so scared to invest in the stock market. Women are actually better savers than men, but we're worse investors. We don't invest in the stock market. We like all the safe things. We don't like anything that's risky, but that also loses our opportunity to grow money and really grow wealth. Men, they go all in. They don't care. They go all in. So when we talk about, all these different areas, we really have to understand it's our responsibility to learn how money works. If you really want to take control of your money, you have to learn how money works. We should all continue being a student of our finances. We should always continue learning about money. And not knowing how money works, it really does, it can cost you and your family. In 2022, the financial literacy cost the average American over $1,800 per year that they lost just because they didn't know how to make an informed financial decision. We end up paying higher premiums for insurance. We're using our credit cards too much for emergencies. We're paying higher interest on our debts. Maybe folks are living paycheck to paycheck. Or just deciding like, what, I don't need to set aside money right now for retirement and long-term care, things like that. And that's a big mistake. You don't just wait. I find a lot of folks say, well, wait until things in my life change. Wait until I make more money. Wait until I get a better job. Let me wait until I pay off this debt, Shantae. Let me wait until my kids go to college. Let me wait until I get this new house. Like, we can constantly make up excuses for why we're waiting to move forward with our finances. The whole point of what I'm trying to say is that no matter what your situation is, you can just get started now. No, even if you're not making a lot of money, even if you just save $1, if you save $5 a week, we have to get it out of our head that it takes a lot. The better thinking should be, I want to build a habit. It's kind of like when you're going to work out and you're building muscle, right? You start just with a little weight, and then you get into the habit and you're like, man, I can do this. Let me go to a higher weight. It's the same thing when it comes to your finances. Just get started. And as you get more secure with it, you'll do more. And when you make more, you save more. Hopefully is what we want folks to do. But here's something I like to share with a lot of folks because, sometimes people don't know like how to get started, or what should they even look at, or what should they even consider when they're looking at their finances. And one of our books we have is called How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker, where we teach people about the 7 money milestones. We call it your roadmap to financial security and independence. And it's just really the pillars of building like a solid financial plan, because you're understanding and paying attention to all the things that make up our financial picture. We're looking at things holistically, not just one area. We're looking at, first of all, becoming financially educated. I always tell folks, I'm so proud to see so many women here who are on this, because you're like, I probably need to learn something. Maybe I could learn something more. Again, remember, always be a student when it comes to the finances. Oh, thank you, Michelle. She says she learned some of this. Yeah. I mean, and building wealth and things, it's not like secrets. I'm here to reinforce it for you. I will talk about some more specific things though. But just becoming educated and working with a financial professional. I can't tell folks how much of a helpful it is to have someone arm in arm guiding you. I know we live in an information age, right? it's so easy to be like, well, I can Google everything and I can try to do everything on my own. Especially women, we have that perspective, right? We're like, I don't want to ask for help. I don't need nobody. I'll figure this out on my own. You could be doing yourself a disservice. I work with tons of people every day, and I'm like, look, I'm just here to give you some expert guidance. I deal with money every day, all day. I might be able to introduce you to some things that you can't find on Google. I know, as a matter of fact, I know you can't find on Google. I could introduce you to some financial concepts and strategies that you probably won't learn on YouTube. But it also just helps to have a financial professional who's in your corner, who can give you that guidance and who can show you, like, all right, let's go this way. I know this is your financial goal. Let me help you get there. Milestone number 2 is proper protection. This is all things insurance. Again, life insurance, health insurance, disability insurance. Again, protecting for those what ifs. What if we lost our income all of a sudden? What if we lost our savings? What if we lost the primary breadwinner in our family, who we no longer, who was bringing in that income that we needed? Insurance will protect against that. I could talk for 2 hours about life insurance. So important. Milestone number 3 is an emergency fund. We hear that all the time, and it's so true. We just need some money set aside. If you got that flat tire in the, on the road or whatever, the whole goal is to not resort to credit cards. And it's not thinking like, oh, because some people say, well, I only have $100 in my emergency fund. That's great. That's $100 that you don't have to charge on a credit card. You want to be prepared for those unexpected expenses. Milestone number 4 is debt management. We talked about that a little bit. Changing our spending habits, figuring out how to eliminate debt and just get out of debt. Do it smartly. Let's do it wisely. First, we got to stop adding on debt, and then how do we pay it down? Milestone number 5 is cash flow. This is just earning extra money. The one thing I realize is that we need 2, 3, 4, 5 sources of income. You hear that 7 sources of income or multiple sources of income. Like, have your job, do a business. I mean, we're Native women. We can make earrings and sell food, and we can teach classes. I mean, I believe we can find something you love and monetize it. I mean, there's so many digital things you can do online, because sometimes I find that a lot of people aren't actually overspending. They just don't have enough money coming in. What expenses can we look at, and what additional income can we make? Milestone number 6 is one of my favorites, building wealth. This is where we talk about investing in the stock market. What type of accounts are we opening? Are they taxed now, taxed later, or tax advantageous accounts? What about inflation? How do I counteract that? How do I really accumulate and grow my money? So to be honest, you shouldn't be thinking about investing in the stock market unless you've gone through steps 1 through 5. I've unfortunately, some people like to jump into that. They're like, I just want to put out some money in the stock market. I'm like, wait a minute. Are we paying down our debt? Do you got some life insurance in place? Have you started your emergency fund? It doesn't have to have the full 3 or 6 months full of income, but have you at least started it? You should not be starting with investing in the stock market, because guess what? 1, the market can turn against you and you can lose all that money overnight. And then 2, for example, you don't have life insurance, you pass away, your little investment, $500, it's not going to help much. It'll help a little bit, but have a life insurance policy where your family will get thousands of dollars overnight. All right, let me not continue ranting on about that. Milestone number 7 is protecting wealth. And this is so key too. I love talking about estate planning. This is, can I set up a will, a trust, legal documents, other documents like a power of attorney, healthcare directives. I talked about, we take care of folks, and do we have even the legal authority to help them make medical decisions for themselves, or to help them manage their finances when they can't manage it on their own? It makes no sense to make all the good financial decisions in your life and you're not protecting your wealth. You're not protecting against, if I become incapacitated, or what if I pass away? Who gets my assets? Who will get my home, my car, my bank account? Who will have the authority to close my accounts and things of that nature? It's super important. This is I think I have a webinar with Native Learning Center on that topic alone. Quick question that came in: should you pay off all debt before starting the emergency fund? No. So I would say we do all these things at once. So the way I look at sometimes with clients, I'll say, okay, what's your budget? Like, how much money are you willing to sacrifice, to give up to work towards your financial goals? So let's just say it's $100. You're like, Shantae, I can not give me, I can save $100 a month. So once you look at your financial situation, just divvy up that $100. You know what? Maybe 25 extra will go toward my debt. $25 can go to my emergency fund. Another $25 can go toward an insurance policy, and then, that's how you would divvy it up. I'm not saying do one thing and have it completely before starting another. A lot of these goals, we actually work on them at the same time. So it's really just about taking out your monthly amount that you have extra and divvying it up between some going to the emergency fund, some paying off debt. Make sure you definitely get your life insurance policies in place. And then, you have your extra savings that you can work with. Thank you. Great question. All right, ladies, are you ready to get into some nitty gritty here? I want to introduce you to the cast of our book. It's called How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. Oh, not being a sucker. I don't have it here with me. You saw it at the beginning of the slides. How Money Works for Women, Take Control or Lose It. This is a book that please contact me if you would like a copy. I'm trying to think. Some of you have been on some of my webinars before, and you might actually have a copy from me already, or even the other book that we have. But anyway, the link that Brooke shared in the chat is to download our ebook. You can get that right away for free. But anyway, so I want to just introduce you to the cast of characters because I'm going to use them to tell the story of different women at different points of their lives and the different scenarios that they actually might be dealing with and how would they handle it differently regarding what their situation that they're dealing with. And the book was created and written by two women. One was she's a leader, and this company is called WealthWave, How Money Works. Excellent woman leader. Her name is Kim Schooler. She's been in the financial services industry 30 years. And then the other co-author of the book, her name is Sharon Lechter. If you guys have actually heard of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, she co-wrote that book with him. His name is all over it. It's like a little line at the bottom. It says Sharon Lechter. She's a CPA. She co-wrote that book with him, and then she came and authored this book with this company that I used to teach this particular workshop out of. And one thing about Sharon Lechter, if you Google her, she was actually the woman who went to Congress or some part of the government. Sorry, I don't know. I need to go back to U.S. history and learn my government terms. She went to a branch of government, I believe it was Congress, and she was the one who proposed that credit card statements indicate how long your balance would take to be paid off if you just do the minimum payment. Because she felt it was so important for folks to understand that if you don't pay this debt off, that debt will double. It'll keep growing and growing and growing. She also advocated for credit card companies to stop going on college campuses and, going after college students and signing them up for credit cards. So she was a huge, huge advocate for protecting consumers, college students. Because, think about it. Our one character here, her name is Zoe. She's 19 years old. And imagine, I remember when I was in college, there was like credit card companies, out in the college community, campus lawn. They had all their tables and booths set up, and they're telling students, come over here, come sign up for a credit card. Here's a free t-shirt. Here's a free hat. And, college students, they didn't know what they were signing up for. They're getting debt. They don't even have income. They don't even have jobs. So it was predatory practices. And Sharon Lechter was one of those folks who went to the government and said, we need to stop doing that. So we're really happy that she came to our company. We're the only financial company, not my company, the American Financial Literacy Services, but the company, How Money Works, who wrote the book. She came to partner with them. We're the only financial company that she's partnered with because she believes in our education platform and the work that we do in educating people to make good financial decisions. So anyway, we're going to go through and talk about all these characters and their different financial situations and how they handle them at their age and in their life. So the first character, this is Zoe. She's 19. She's a college student. So the big issue on Zoe's mind is student loan debt. Hell, that's a big issue still on my mind, and I'm 40, okay? But she's like, I have all this student loan debt. Like, do I take on student loans? Do I not? So let's look at some statistics around student loans. So women, we hold nearly 2/3 of all outstanding student loans. And nice, another good statistics, we represent almost 60% of college students earning degrees. And 1 year after graduation, women, we owe 10% more in student loans than men. And so why do you think that is? Is that gender pay gap that thing we were talking about before? Yes, it's because if we earn 82 cents for every dollar earned by a man, we have less money each month to pay off student loan debt. And so while we are advancing education wise, career wise, we're taking on a lot of debt just to even get forward in life. And so when we look at, women who are trying to combat that, Zoe's chapter in the book, it has a checklist in the back of it. It just talks about how to minimize student loan debt, tips on how to pay it off quickly. Um, we want someone who's reading Zoe's chapter to feel confident that they can do their own due diligence, that they can select the right loan on the best terms for themselves, and that she can repay that loan as soon as possible after graduation. That will give her more options in the future. Because what happens if you graduate with a huge amount of debt and no plan to pay it off quickly? You just end up you just put it off later until bigger decisions in your life come up. You're like, I won't deal with that, or if you got this huge amount of debt, you're like, I'll just wait on getting married. I'll wait on starting a family or buying a house. So we want folks to feel in control of these situations. In some of these slides, they'll give you the exact things to do, and then some of them just talks about what can you do. Let's look at Maria here. So she's the 20-year-old. She represents the 20s. She's 27. She's actually a CPA, so she's a certified public accountant. And Maria decided she's going to start her own accounting firm. And at the same time, she's planning her wedding. So a lot of women, we do go into business. There's a statistic from the Small Business Administration that says most new businesses that are started right now, I think they said like 80% of them are started by women. We're creating the most jobs with our businesses. So, I mean, we have to, pat ourselves on the back for that. But let's look at some statistics regarding that. There are more than 12 million women own businesses in the U.S., employing nearly 9.5 million workers and contributing around $1.8 trillion per year to the economy. That's huge. That's a huge, huge statistic. And that wasn't surprising. What is surprising is that we, flip it from a business perspective and look at weddings. Surprisingly enough, couples spend an average of $28,000 for a wedding in the U.S. From $15,000 for weddings with 50 or fewer guests to $38,000 for more than 100 guests. I don't know how engaged couples do it. That's why it's not uncommon that we're hearing a lot of young people saying they're waiting on getting a wedding. And then after marriage, just 20% of couples participate equally in financial decisions, with the majority of the men taking the lead on long-term financial decisions. And that's an interesting statistic. I'll tell you guys a story. I was married very, very shortly and then divorced very quickly thereafter. But it was interesting. Me and my ex-husband, we didn't actually share financial responsibilities. Like, it wasn't balanced. He wasn't, what do you call it? Like, not equal, but it wasn't I can't think of my words. It wasn't, like I said, balanced. Like, he made way more money than me at the time, but I was still paying half of all the bills. And so to some couples, when I'm working with them, I'm like, look, I get if somebody's paying, making all the income, everyone should contribute, but, do it based on the income. So if someone's income is way higher, maybe they pay 80% of the bills. And the person who has a lower amount of the bills, they pay the other 20%. Make it fair, so that one person isn't being overburdened. But this last part is where 7 in 10 men take the lead on financial decisions. I do find this a lot. I work with couples. Interestingly enough, I work with a lot of married people, but they don't work with me together, if that makes sense. And I try to encourage them. I'm like, look, we want both the husband and the wife at the table, but a lot of households, they operate their finances separately. the couples that I see that are the most successful, they manage their finances together. They talk about money. They have, the woman is just as involved as the man. She knows exactly what's going on, which I'll talk about that because if you leave it all up to the man, and I'm not saying not to trust your partner, even if you're not married, I'm not saying not to trust your partner or spouse. You should just know what's going on. I remember I was at an appointment with a client, and it was with the husband and wife. The wife went up to go to the bathroom, and he whispered to me, me and my other partner, we were there. He was like, "Don't tell her, but I have another account, and it has X amount of money in it." And I was like, "Holy crap." I was like, yikes, but he was the one who took control of all the money. So in Maria's chapter, it really goes through a lot. We're talking about entrepreneurship, starting a new business, but also money saving tips for planning a wedding. Just for questions for couples to think about when they start, planning their life together. They should have shared goals. They should merge their finances. Now, if that doesn't happen, it's okay. But again, I see the most success in couples when they do all these things together. Towards the end of the chapter, it suggests what we call a 50-20-30 budget for allocating money among expenses. Half of your budget should be on expenses, 20% should be on, shared savings together, and then the other 30% you have for your own individual spending. So half of the budget from the couple, living expenses, 20% you're saving your money together, and then the 30% you do what you want, you have fun. And so after this chapter, we want women to feel that whether or not she has a partner, she's in charge. She's starting her business, she's making her dreams come true. She can do research, she can plan ahead, especially with starting a business. She can save more money on her own for those dreams to become a reality, whether it is a business or even a dream wedding. We want folks to feel empowered to participate in making financial decisions together as a family, having family financial goals. A real common theme throughout the book, that particular book, is that the woman should have her own money. She should have her own credit score, her own credit history, but also be aware of what her partner's bringing to the table as well. All right, let's talk about Val. She represents the 30-year-old crowd. So she's a social media influencer, a blogger, I guess, AKA content creator nowadays. But one thing that's unique about Val is that her son has autism. So she changed careers so that she could work from home, helping other parents of children with special needs. So her goals, what she's most concerned about is, okay, how do I plan for myself, but how do I also plan for my son who has future financial needs, because he has special needs as well. So here are some statistics. Nearly 1 in 5 children in the U.S. has a special healthcare need. And the estimated cost to raise a child with special needs is around $70,000 a year. And over a lifetime, the cost to care for a child with special needs are estimated to run between $1.5 million to $2.4 million, depending on the disability. So that's a lot of planning to do if you have a child with special needs. And then especially if you want to make sure that they can still qualify for government benefits, because, the government looks at, okay, what assets does the family have and that the children has. And so there's different accounts that can be established so that the child can still have money or even receive inheritances from you if something happened to you, so that they don't disqualify themselves from receiving those government benefits. So for most parents, when you have a child with special needs, the biggest concern is like, I don't know what, the financial responsibility will look like when they become adults, because your financial responsibility for them will not end. For parents of special needs children, like, it will probably never end, in fact, some parents may have to plan for their child's care well into their own retirement, and then care for that child even after the parent passes away. So for this chapter of the book for Val, it talks about the government assistance, special needs trusts. There are special needs trusts that you can have to where your child is protected, whether you're here or not. ABLE accounts, that's ABLE accounts. all of which are unique to taking care of children with disabilities. We hope that at the end of reading Val's chapter of having a special needs child, especially, that the reader feels like, okay, I know what I need to do to take care of, that uncertain financial future for myself or for my child. More importantly, is just having plans in place. I can't imagine the stress that, parents have and women that we have when we're already caregivers in many aspects. So we want, again, when you're in control of your finances, it does reduce a lot of that stress. So let's talk about our next chapter, who is on Dana. She's our next character. She's a 42-year-old hospital director. She's raising 2 children. Dana is trying to figure out how to put proper protection in place for her family. So she's trying to figure out life insurance. She's trying to plan for her retirement as well. And she's trying to save money for her kids to go to college. So she's really trying to do a lot. We call her the what's that? Not Gen Z, Gen X. Yeah, Gen XY. Gen Xers. You guys are what we call the sandwich generation. You're taking care of aging parents and then also your growing adult children. All right, so let's look at, for Dana, some statistics here. So 2/3 of Americans rely on supplemental life insurance from work. So remember, Dana's trying to figure out how to get life insurance for her family. I tell folks too, if you have workplace life insurance, that's a start. I just don't rely on it. And the reason is because, one, oftentimes it's not enough. It's a group term insurance policy. That's what keeps the cost really, really low. And maybe you might get 1 or 2 times your salary if something happened to you, your family would rather. But oftentimes we need way more insurance than that. You probably need 10 times your salary. That's actually a good starting point. So for example, let's say you make $50,000 a year in income. You should have 10 times that amount in life insurance coverage, which is $500,000. And a lot of people would think like, oh, that's a lot of money to have in life or a big death benefit. No, not really. If you think about it, your income, your greatest asset to your family is the ability to bring income into the household. And if you're no longer here, they no longer have that income to live on. So the reasoning behind having 10 times your annual income in coverage for life insurance is because your family will be at least able to live for the next 10 years off of that income that you used to have. You're replacing your income, essentially. Or that money from the life insurance can go to pay down debt. It could pay off the mortgage. It could put kids through college. I mean, we got to think beyond, especially when it comes to life insurance. We got to think beyond just paying for those final expenses. And I know it's very hard, especially in our culture. We do not talk about death. We don't talk about, passing away. It's taboo for many of our tribes, but we need to. We do. We need to. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Unless your tribe pays for all that. I mean, mine doesn't. I'm Navajo. I love being Navajo, but I don't get a lot of resources and support from them, especially living off the res. Anyway, that's a whole nother chapter, another story. But I want to make sure that if something happened to me, my 3 children, their lifestyles don't change. We don't have to sell the house. They can still go to the colleges they want to go to. And the money left behind will be more than enough to take care of them as they get older and become adults. All right, let me start talking about that. With respect to 401k savings, so Dana, she's trying to plan for retirement as well. If you're lucky enough to have a retirement account at your job, take full advantage of it, please. Women contribute 2% less than men, and our median balances are about 1/3 of those held by men. And again, why do you think that is? It goes back to that pay gap. We don't make as much money, so we don't set a lot aside of money for retirement. And that's a big mistake. Like if you have a retirement plan at the workplace and they offer you a match, contribute at least to the match. So if they're giving you 3% of money, the employer puts in 3% based on you putting in 3%, do that. At least contribute up to the match. If you have the ability to save more for retirement out of your paycheck above that match, come find somebody and talk to a person like me, because I can help you reinvest that elsewhere so you can really grow and save it. But sometimes people think, well, if I put my money in my 401k, I'm going to get less in my paycheck. It won't be a big, even noticeable difference. That money that goes in your 401k is pre-tax. So it's before you even tax. It actually reduces your taxes. Like, let's say you get $1,000 a paycheck, you put 200 into the 401k. Now only $800 is taxed. So it's actually not that big of a chunk you'll notice on your check. And it's free money that you could be missing out on. Okay, the last statistic is significant. In 2022, there were almost 16 million 529 college savings accounts in the U.S. with an average balance of nearly $26,000. So Dana is also trying to save money for her children to go to college. Now, a 529 could be an account that makes sense. One of my workshops, I believe I did already with Native Learning Centers, how to save money for children. You guys can go and look for that one. How to save money for kids. A 529 account it's an investment account, and you can only pull that money out to pay for education costs. And it's not just college. If your student goes to like private school, like a church school, or a private tuition school, you can actually use a 529 for that. So that investment account, as you put money in it, it grows, with the stock market. As you pull money out, you don't pay taxes. That's the benefit of it. And then if you can have the money for, paying for college later in life as well. Now, the only downside, so take a note of this. If you have somebody close to college and you're thinking about this particular type of account, the only downside with a 529 plan is that you have to report it on the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. You have to report it as an asset, because the colleges, because it's a 529, they know, oh, this money is meant to pay for education costs. So they're actually going to calculate that balance in, how they put together the financial aid package for the student. So it has some plus and minuses. Again, that's why I said it's not always the only type of account to save for college. There's different other types. But if you know for sure your child is going to college and you want to save money, it's not a bad plan at all. You actually can establish a 529 plan through your resident state. So their Department of Treasury, usually the state treasurer, whatever state you live in, will have their own 529 plan. And you usually get a benefit on your tax return, your state income tax return, when you establish a 529 plan in your resident state. But you don't have to have a 529 just for, where you live. You can actually open a plan for other states as well. But again, you get that benefit. Most states, you get a state tax benefit as well if you have the 529 plan with them. All right, let's move on here. So for Dana, her situation, she had a lot going on. First of all, again, her chapter discusses employee benefits, talks about life insurance and that 401k plan. Taking advantage of those employee benefits is the most important thing, especially those 401k matching contributions that I was talking about. It's a level for women to, it's a way to level the playing field for women. This chapter also talks about college savings, even setting aside a small amount of money in a 529 plan over a 10-year plus time frame. Your children should have some decent amount of money to use to pay for part or most of their college expenses. I mean, heck, I appreciate my mom and dad, but they didn't have nothing for me to go to college. They got to have some scholarships, and obviously our tribes hopefully have some education support there as well. But some students are really struggling when they get to college, or they can't go because there's no money for them. So by the end of this chapter, we just hope that women walk away just understanding those employee benefits better, college savings, and just really having the confidence to plan for their family's financial future. All right, we are at Sarah. She's 49. Trigger warning, or I don't know if it's, what do you call it? It's a hot topic. This chapter actually talks about domestic abuse, which includes financial abuse. And it's not a topic that we don't talk about, or, just kind of ignore it as if it doesn't happen, because it does. Sarah, she left an abusive relationship 12 years ago. She had nothing but the clothes on her back, her 2 daughters. Now, she's 49. In the future, she's successful in real estate. And she shares her story to help other women avoid or escape getting trapped in an abusive situation. I mean, again, it's not a topic that we just ignore. It happens. Domestic violence is this country's #1 public health issue per the CDC. 1 in 4 women will experience domestic violence in her life, and 99% of the victims will also suffer financial abuse. Domestic violence hotlines in the U.S. receive approximately 20,000 calls a day. So if we're going to address women in finances, we have to talk about this important issue because it does affect at least 25% of women. And I'm pretty sure with the few of us who are still left here on the webinar, we know someone who has been in a type of situation or is in this situation. Again, it's not a topic that we don't shy away from. So in this book, we talk about, first of all, identifying red flags for a potentially financial abusive partner. Like a partner who tries to control all the finances. They don't let you get access to money, or they try to give you only an allowance. Those are some red flags. For women who are in an abusive situation, the chapter talks about having a personal financial safety plan in place to escape. It's not easy for women in these situations to just walk away. We think, oh, just to walk away. Like, it's not easy. You really do need to plan and start having some getting their personal finances in order. Sometimes the women have to go and reorder like a birth certificate and ID cards because their partners took them. And then after leaving, a lot of women are just starting over from scratch. They have nothing. Sometimes they walk away with debts and a bad credit score because that partner really took advantage of them and, put all the credit card debt in their name and things of that nature. So that chapter really just goes through how to start over with those limited resources. It's a really important chapter in the book. We want women to walk away feeling hopeful about taking back control, by planning, stashing some cash away, learning how to reach out to family members for help and community resources. Starting over is hard in the short term, but obviously staying in the situation will be much harder in the long term. So it's a very important topic to talk about. All right, let me get through the rest of these women so I can wrap it up. May, she's 56 and a history professor. She finds herself taking care of her aging parents and helping her adult son. Ooh, I'm so glad. I breathe like that because I feel like, especially in our cultures, it's normal to have multi-generations in the family, but she's in the thick of it. So her aging parents and her adult son both now live with her, and she's looking for help. She's like, how do I take care of my loved ones without compromising my own finances? So let's look at her story or some statistics around her situation. So women represent nearly 2/3 of unpaid caregivers and spend about 50% more time providing care than men. If you think about it, we do. Again, we're the caregivers. Who's going to quit their job to take care of their mom and dad? We are. We're going to quit our jobs to take care of our partner's parents. We literally stop working. We don't get paid for these roles. We've spent, and it's a hard role. It's not easy at all. I remember I was working with a couple maybe in their 60s, and we were talking about long-term care insurance, and the husband was like, well, she's my long-term care insurance because if something happens to me, she's going to take care of me. And so then I looked at the wife and I said, can you lift up your 300-pound husband to change him, to clean him? And they realized that probably wasn't a solid plan. She'll work herself very, very hard to death, probably trying to take care of someone else. Women caregivers are almost 3 times more likely to end up in poverty and 5 times more likely to depend exclusively on Social Security because we're not planning for long-term care. Again, who's taking care of us? Almost 1/4 of American adults are part of this sandwich generation, taking care of the aging parents and adult children. This is at Gen Xers. Is that Gen X? I keep getting these generations. There's like Gen Alpha and Beta now, but it's a real concern we have to talk about. In May's chapter, we provide a checklist for multi-generational planning. first and foremost, you should not compromise your retirement savings. Your retirement savings are for you. I've seen parents dig into their 401ks, take out loans to help, their child go to college or whatever. That's the last thing you want to do, because what are you going to live off of? You shouldn't compromise your retirement savings or long-term care planning to help take care of your family. You ever hear on the plane, that safety lecture on the plane? What do they say? Put on your oxygen mask first before putting on an oxygen mask for your loved ones. It's the same thing here. Another important point here is that May, her father, her parents, and her son, they should all sit down together and have an open conversation about their finances. Again, many of us, we don't want our families to worry or to think that they are a burden to us, right? So we don't talk about it. But if everyone knows the situation, then everyone can find ways to make a contribution to the household. Whether that's bringing in more money or reducing expenses. Don't just depend all on me, guys. Like, I need everybody to help. We just got to have those open conversations. So after reading May's chapter, women should feel a sense of satisfaction and relief that they can help take care of their family, but they can stay on track for their own financial goals also. Okay, I'm going to get it closer to almost done. All right, so our next character, her name is Hope. We're getting older. She's 62. She's now like, all right, I got to figure out retirement. She thought her and her husband of 30 years would enjoy retirement together, but they got divorced. She never saw divorce coming. And she just has a few years left to save for retirement. So she wants to make sure, first of all, she wants to make sure she gets everything she's entitled to in the divorce, as she should. And she also wants to make the right decision for herself when she starts going to claim Social Security benefits. So let's look at some statistics here for Hope's situation. So 36% of divorcing couples are over age 50. I'm seeing this a lot too. I don't know if you guys are noticing that. Older women going through a divorce see their standard of living decline by 45%. That's a huge and scary statistic. I mean, if you think about it, you've been living with your partner, your husband, all your life, and then now all of a sudden that life that you guys had is gone. Somebody moved out. You probably had to have a different home to live in. That's a significant decline in your standard of living that can happen. 42% of older women rely on Social Security for 50% or more of their income. So again, this is women who, a couple scenarios here. They either worked and didn't save. We obviously have our pay gap. We weren't able to save as long for retirement as our male counterparts. Or they were a stay-at-home spouse. They didn't work at all. And then now their other spouse is gone. They're like, what resources do they have? So that's why it's important to make sure, when you're going through a divorce, you get everything you are entitled to. I made that mistake. I'll be honest and truthful. I just wanted to be done. I'm like, I just want to be done. I don't want child support. I don't want his pension. I don't want his 401k. Big mistake. One of those things, child support, I had to get figured out very quickly. Like, no, I need that child support. But, get everything you're entitled to. You deserve it, especially after 30 years. So to help women like Hope who find themselves divorced later in life, this chapter has a checklist of things to do and documents to gather. This chapter really talks about the importance of gathering a team of professionals to work with to help advocate for your rights, especially when you're not able to, because you're so deep in the emotions. You're like devastated already emotionally. You want people around you who are like, you know what, we're going to help you. Let's get these documents together, because now you're getting to a point where you're separating your life from someone. This also talks about when to claim Social Security benefits, and whether you're entitled to claim benefits based on your former husband's earning record. Did you know that, guys? This is a conversation I'm having with my mom right now, because her and my dad divorced long, long ago. I don't know if a lot of women know, and not even just women, but ex-divorced people, divorced people. When you get to claiming Social Security, you can actually you can actually have a benefit. You have an option of receiving a benefit based on your former spouse's Social Security benefit amount. And how it works, it's a whole webinar I have to go through on that. But basically, if your ex is still alive, if you are married for at least 10 years and you have not remarried and you are age 62 or older, while your ex is alive, you may be entitled to claim up to 50% of his Social Security benefit. After he passes away, you may be able to claim 100% of his benefit. And this does not affect him. It doesn't affect any future wives he might have. It doesn't affect that other wife's, new wife's benefits. This is solely because you were married to him for 10 years and you have not remarried while you're claiming Social Security. So this is my mom right now. She's turning 62. She's going to hate me for putting her business out. You guys don't know her anyway. She's turning 62 in a couple months. I'm like, Mom, she doesn't plan on working to full retirement age. Unfortunately, she's done. So full retirement age is 67. So because she's going to see what his benefit is, and because she's collected in early, she'll actually be able to claim up to 35% of his Social Security benefit. So we'll see, because I know my father made way more money than her over the rest of his life. So even 35% of his benefit still might be more than what she qualified for on her own. And so again, that's just, some people just don't know those things. They don't know, they just think, oh, it's based only on me. No, especially if you're divorced, you can consider your spouse's Social Security. You just need your marriage certificate, your divorce decree, and I think that's it. Take that to the Social Security Administration office so that they can look up your ex-husband's Social Security benefit, and they'll let you know. They'll let you know if you would be better off claiming your own, or if you would be better off claiming it off of his, what he's accumulated. So, don't stalk your ex-husband. Don't hire a hitman. You just, keep track of what happens to him, because you might get a higher benefit if he passes away. They don't need to know. You don't need to ask the ex for anything like that. So anyway, at the end of Hope's chapter, we want the reader to feel hopeful, even, when you're faced with a devastating divorce later in life. Having a team of professionals that advocate for your rights, come up with a good financial plan for yourself, understand Social Security. No one is the best time to claim your benefits. So definitely some tidbits there. All right, we got 2 more characters and then we'll be finished. Fatima is 73. She loved being a stay-at-home mom. She left all of the financial decisions to her husband. She wasn't even part of the conversation. Unfortunately, though, her husband passed away recently, and Fatima doesn't know what bills to pay, what investments they have. She doesn't know where to start. And then when she talks to her husband's former financial advisor, he says it'll just be okay. He doesn't even explain anything. He doesn't even explain anything to her. That makes me so mad. Let's look at some statistics for Fatima's situation. Half of married women defer investing and long-term financial decisions to their spouses. Yet there are more than 11 million widowed women in the U.S. today. 51% of those widowed women aged 65 and older live on less than $22,000 a year. I don't know how anyone does that. 70% of widows leave their husband's financial professional within a year of his death. Meaning, if the husband did have a financial advisor, they take the money and go somewhere else. And why do you think that is? One, probably because that financial professional never made no attempt to engage the wife into the conversation. He didn't pay attention to her. He didn't talk to her about her needs or her goals. So she's like, why should I stay with him? And maybe she didn't even want to know. Maybe she was like, my husband's taking care of it. I don't need to be there. And I think that's, again, I talked about that earlier. Women, we need to be involved in all the conversations of finances. But at the end of the day, financial professionals should make sure that they're addressing the financial needs and goals of both people in the couple, not just one. So it's really important for Fatima. She'll probably go and find a woman financial advisor, and then, have someone who can help her as she's now figuring out how to manage the finances on her own later in life. Question came in: if an individual never marries, are any of the adult children able to claim any Social Security benefits upon their death? I'm not sure about that situation. If an individual never marries, oh, like you had children, but you were never married, I'm assuming, are any of the adult children able to claim any Social Security benefits? I would have to, my brain can't process that question right now. No, so only children are able to only claim benefits if there's like a disability. Um, you would otherwise qualify individually off of your own income and work history. Sorry, I'll have to take a deeper look at that question. So for Fatima's situation, unfortunately, many baby boomers, they find themselves in that situation, widowed. I actually had an old coworker. Her husband passed away suddenly. He was 39 years old, and she was left. Thank God, she was a client of our company. She had everything set up in place. It was like the perfect financial situation for the most devastating situation that she went through in her life. But they had an advisor. They had everything set up, life insurance, college for the kid, like everything was, it was, I remember her telling her story to us over and over, like, thank God I did the planning. You know, she never expected her husband to pass away like that. Anyway, so this chapter provides a checklist for widows on what to do once their spouse dies. You know, it's really overwhelming. So it's just broken down to steps like, you know, how to contact Social Security Administration, how to, you know, close out their accounts and things of that nature. One of the important points of this particular chapter is that women need their own credit history. They need their own credit score. Remember, Fatima, she was a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home wife. She didn't do anything. She didn't work, rather. So for women like Fatima who depended, you know, on their husband's credit and credit cards, when he dies, she didn't have any of her own credit history or her own credit score. So it's difficult for her to go and buy a new car or even rent her own new place. So women, again, you want to find a new financial professional, ask questions, find someone that you know and trust. Find someone that will talk to you the way you want to be talked to. I always tell folks, like, ask for referrals. If you're ever going to engage a financial professional like myself, I'll be happy to work with anybody, but make sure it's a good fit. Like, I tell people, like, sometimes I'm not a good fit for you, or you know, like, do I ask in your questions? Do you like my personality, my attitude? Because you want somebody who's handling your money you really want to trust them and like them. You want to like them. And I want you to like me. I want people to like me if I'm working with you. But anyway, after reading this chapter, we want women to feel confident that they can step up, they can learn how money works, that it's never too late and you're never too old. And then if you have the help of a trusted professional, that you can take control of your money and your financial future. All right, we're getting down to the last character. This is Jan. She's 86. She was a stay-at-home mom until her kids were in school. Once they were in school, she started working for her husband as his assistant. And then she retired after her husband had retired. She was an equal participant in the family's decision-making about money. She always asked her questions. For Jan, her concerns were always about future generations of women in her family. So consider her. She was the one who kind of like did it right. She was the one who had the crystal ball and was like, I'm working together with my husband. We're doing this together. So here's some statistics for even folks who are later in life, 80s and older. 80% of women die single, while 80% of men die married. Let me read that again. 80% of women die single, while 80% of men die married. And we saw that in Fatima's chapter, right? Half of women defer their finances to the women. And so we want to consider that if we're going to live a long life, we'll probably outlive our partners. And how will we have enough money to continue living our long lives? 42% of women are afraid that they will run out of money by age 80. 77% of women say they see money in terms of what it can do for their families, leaving a legacy. And we've seen that throughout the book because women, we're the caregivers. We care about everybody else, right? We care about others. So a couple of things about Jan, you know, in her 86 years, Jan has seen 13 bear markets. A bear market means the markets are going down. 13 bull markets. A bull market means the markets are going up. 12 recessions, 6 periods of high inflation, the Great Recession of 2008 to 2009, the longest bull market, which was from 2009 to 2020. But because Jan and her husband, again, they did it right. They followed the 7 money milestones. They stuck to their long-term planning. They were able to buy a house. They put their children through college. They retired nicely. They weren't struggling. They made adjustments along the way, as needed, but they never lost sight of their goals. Jan and her husband didn't have emotional knee-jerk reactions to whatever was happening or what was going on in the market or the economy. Her husband has since passed away, but Jan owns her own home. She has a car. She has no debt. She takes regular trips to see her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and she sets aside money for the next generations. Oh, that gave me goosebumps thinking about that. That's a life, right? That's what we really want. In the last 60 years, Jan has seen the gender pay gap narrow from 60 cents in 1963 when President Kennedy signed the Equal Pay Act. 30 years later in 1990, the gender pay gap was at 70 cents. And then another 30 years later in 2021 and today, the gender pay gap is at 82 cents for every dollar earned by a man. And Jan hopes that her granddaughters and great-granddaughters won't have to wait another 30 years before they see the equal pay that was promised back in 1963 with President Kennedy. In the last 50 years, Jan has seen women make incredible progress in achieving academic success. Title IX was passed in 1972 and prohibited gender discrimination in educational programs. At that time, only 8% of women earned college degrees. One generation later, women earned nearly 60% of all college degrees. So again, Jan is hopeful that her granddaughters and great-granddaughters can achieve anything they set their mind to. She can't wait to see how they'll impact the world. So women who are in control, they should feel inspired. They should have a sense of pride at taking control of their finances and learning how money works and applying the basic financial concepts in the 7 money milestones. Your life, you'll go through changes, the market will go up and down, whatever, but you should always stay true to your plan, to your goals, to your future long-term planning and achieving your financial goals. So, what are some next steps here? First of all, I'd be happy to connect with folks if you want a copy of that book or just in general. First, just talk about money. Talk about money, things that we discussed at the beginning of this presentation. Know your financial situation. Eliminate the unnecessary. Set financial goals for yourself over the short term, medium term, and long term. Make a plan to establish your goals. Save and invest more money, even if it's just a little bit every day. Continue learning how money works, and then take 2 additional steps. Partner with a financial professional. Set an appointment with someone who can help you, who can look at your finances and walk you through that. Consider sharing your knowledge with others. So many of us women, we learn from trial and error. Share your knowledge with others, especially other women in your life. Just like, I'm sharing with you today. Think about what do you want to create for your lifestyle. What do you want for yourself? What do you want for your family? What do you want to, if you learn how money works by working with a financial professional, that's why I'm doing. I'm looking for women actually who want to teach other women how money works. Let me move on. Let me just share my last couple of slides. I'm like right at the time. Financial freedom is freedom from fear. This was a quote from Sharon Lechter. I think that when you're financially free, you don't worry about anything or anybody. And when you're always owing somebody, you're not financially free. So I hope this inspires you to have and strive toward financial freedom. As shared earlier, I'm not going to go through this. Brooke shared the link to an ebook from our company. It's about there's 3 different versions of it. You can get a really short version or a long version, but it just talks about people in the world now. Like, why do we need to be financially educated? What resources are out there that's available? And then lastly, if anyone would like to connect with me, I'd be happy to be a resource to you. I offer free consultations. They're 30 minutes over Zoom. You can scan that QR code. And then I can see how I can be a resource to you. I don't charge a fee for my financial planning services. So that's why I do consultations. I just want to make sure you're serious, but stay connected with me. I'm happy to connect with folks and share resources. Oops, sorry, that was it. Share a newsletter, books. I just want to give as much information as I can. So, Brooke, I'm going to shut up talking and pass it back over to you. Thank you all so much for having me on today.
All right. Thank you so much for this incredible presentation, Shantae. As a woman myself, I found this so empowering. This was awesome. Folks, I have put the link to the webinar feedback survey into the chat for you. If you don't mind taking a few minutes to complete that, lets us know what's working well, what we can improve upon, and you can let Shantae know how much you enjoyed this presentation in there, because we do share the feedback with our instructors. We hope you can join us for our next webinar. That is going to be this upcoming Thursday. This will be on strategy and metrics for a successful annual grant plan. That'll be instructed by Diane Leonard. And if you need to catch any of our recorded webinars, they have moved to our YouTube channel. There is a Cathedral webinar archive. I'm actually going to copy the link into the chat as well. It is on the shared notes section also, if y'all want to go through those. But you'll have the webinar today will be posted on there once it's ready, as well as our past webinars for about the past 2 years. We hope you can check out our upcoming training events. We post them to our various social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. If you enjoy podcasts, we have an in-house produced podcast, the Hopathanga Native American podcast. You can listen to that wherever you listen to your podcasts, or if you're somebody who prefers to watch the interviews with our guests, we post those to our YouTube channel as well. All right, folks, it doesn't look like anybody's typing in any questions at this time. So I am going to go ahead and close out. Let me give one final thank you to everybody who's joined us for today, and a big thank you to Shantae for this incredible presentation. It is being recorded, y'all, and I'll post it tomorrow morning. That'll be on our YouTube, and you can also find it here on the website in the courses section. So if you want to share this with any of your friends, any of your colleagues, any of your family, that'll be ready to go by tomorrow morning. But I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your day. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to connect with you again really soon.